It is 7:42 p.m. on Friday, February 19th, 2021, and you are listening to episode 7 of the Pass Pro Podcast. I'm your host, Nigel Cornelius, and you know what? Quick announcement. The tentative plan now is to change recording days to Fridays and release days to Saturdays. Initially, I would record Thursday nights and then edit Friday through the day and then upload Friday night, 7 p.m. But, with online school and my schedule being the way it is, I think Friday night, after a long week of school, the best thing is for me to sit down Friday night with a nice cold drink, which for tonight's episode is a nice tall glass of spiced rum and Coke, and, talk football, talk sports, and then spend my leisure day Saturday in front of the computer for a couple hours, editing the audio, doing my Photoshop, which is graphics, which is still pretty fucking primitive. I ain't that good with Photoshop, but I'm hopefully going to get there at some point. But yeah, so for the people who do listen, expect the episodes of Saturday now instead of Friday. Not that it's a big deal. I'm sure none of you are sitting there waiting for the moment of release to instantly listen. I'm sure you just listen when it's easily accessible to you. But, if you started looking for episodes on Friday nights, I think they're going to start coming Saturday now. That's the plan. It might change, but as of right now, that's the way my schedule works. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about the Carson Wentz trade that happened yesterday, and then a new segment now that we're fully into the offseason and we're under a month away from free agency. I'm going to start doing a biggest needs segment where in an episode I'm going to pick a division in the NFL. And I'm going to talk about each team's biggest needs and how I think they should go about filling those and what they can do to fill those needs. So for this week, we're going to do the AFC North, which has the division that has the Bills, Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots. To start off with what I mentioned earlier, yesterday, February 18th, the Eagles traded quarterback Carson Wentz. Or to put the stakes in a little higher, they traded their 2016 second overall pick, Carson Wentz, to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2021 third round pick and a 2022 conditional second round pick. What's meant by that 2022 second being conditional is that if Carson Wentz plays 75% of offensive snaps, or if he plays 70% and the Colts make the playoffs, that 2020 second turns into a first. That's why it's conditional. Though a lot of people are saying, Carson Wentz's contract, everybody, if you paid attention this year, you heard the issues with that contract. So, the casual fan would say, the Eagles traded Carson Wentz, they got rid of his contract, but the way they structured it so poorly means that it's not that simple. Because of the way they structured the guaranteed money, by trading Carson Wentz yesterday, the Eagles just took the largest dead cap, which dead cap means is money you're paying a player that's not on your roster. So, for example, last year when the Rams cut Todd Gurley, they had dead cap because because when you trade or get rid of a player, that guaranteed money you owe him, or them, I say, the NFL is all males. Fuck off, I'll say him. But, that money you owe him still has to be paid. Same as if you trade him. But when you trade him, the guaranteed money doesn't move to the other team. That stays with you. So when the Eagles structured Carson Wentz's contract, they offered him a shitload of guaranteed money very early in the deal. So when the Eagles this year traded Carson Wentz, they just took the largest single dead cap hit in NFL history. $33.8 million. That's what they're paying Carson Wentz to play on the Colts. $33.8 million. So when looking at this whole trade, I think the Colts just committed highway robbery. Yeah, Carson Wentz wasn't happy and they needed to trade him, but this is on the Eagles. This whole Carson Wentz situation is at fault of the Eagles. Drafting Jalen Hurts instead of giving Carson Wentz somebody to help him succeed. And I know people are going to say, well, that's hypocritical. You're a Packers fan. They drafted Jordan Love, but completely different situation. The Packers didn't have holes like the Eagles did. The Packers don't have an aging O-line like the Eagles did. Packers didn't have an aging roster like the Eagles did. The Packers didn't have one of the worst wide receiver. Well, wide receiver core wasn't great, but there was some young promise in there. The Eagles were relying on Deshaun Jackson who in his age isn't what he used to be and still is quite injury prone. And Alshon Jeffrey, extremely injury prone. And then J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, they let Nelson Aguilar walk, who, had a nice return to form year with the Raiders this year. Like, the Eagles, and then Doug Peterson, every issue with Carson Wentz is 100% on the Eagles. Everybody complains that Carson Wentz got too hero ballish. That's because they forced him to become like that. Last year, when he threw for 4,000 yards, throwing to practice squad wide receivers like Greg Ward, who was a quarterback, and this year, having to throw to Travis Fulgham, who was nice for a while, but there was a reason he was cut off both Green Bay and Detroit's practice squads. Carson Wentz was forced to have to play hero ball, and this year didn't help. Doug Peterson was an awful coach. They finally axed him. The O-line was injured to hell and aging, and so he was constantly facing pressure. He'd lost all confidence in himself. So them getting the return they did on Carson Wentz as they are doing. But for the Colts, there's no way you can really lose this trade. If Carson Wentz doesn't work out, you gave away a second next year and a third this year. And since the Eagles take all that dead cap, his contract is pretty negotiable and easy to move around if you want to cut him, retrade him, something along those lines. And then if he succeeds, you gave away a first-round pick next year, because people tend to, I was one of the people who I'm not sure Carson Wentz can ever return to form. I don't even know if he'll do it in Indy, but there's still a chance. I personally think if there was a spot where he can return to form, it's Indy. I wasn't a fan of him going to Chicago because I don't think Chicago, with Matt Nagy, their O-line issues, etc., can really make him thrive. I think Indy can. Indy has one of the league's best O-lines. Super young roster. A ton of cap space to go get some guys like a wide receiver. They have a wide receiver core, that's young. They've got guys like Michael Pittman Jr., who really looked nice at the end of last year with Phil Rivers throwing in the ball. The O-line, they have Quentin Nelson, who's the best O-lineman in football. Well, interior O-lineman. You can't compare guards and tackles. Tackles are so much more important. But Quentin Nelson, one of the best O-linemen in football, 100% best interior lineman. They have just such a solid foundation. And then Frank Reich is the coach that in 2017, before he was injured, was the guy who had Carson Wentz as the runaway MVP favorite. People forget that thought when Tom Brady won that MVP the year he lost to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl, that was Carson Wentz's MVP until he got hurt. That really was. Frank Reich's a really good coach, and if there's someone who can revive Carson, it's Frank. So if Frank Reich can turn Carson Wentz back into that top 10 QB that he was, this is a win. You gave away a first and a third for a top 10 QB. He's not even in his 30s yet. That's a really good deal. So in the end, the Eagles lost this deal, but after what they did, they couldn't win it. They were trying to drive the price up, saying the Bears were offering a couple first round picks. Rah, 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 rah. As dumb as fucking Ryan Pace is, I don't think he's that dumb. The Wentz deal, was shit for the Eagles, but they have no one to blame but themselves. They drove down his value. They forced him out. All of this trade is on them. And the fact that they're at best only getting one first and a third for a guy that they traded up a lot to go get Carson Wentz, and then they took him second overall, and that's all you're getting for him, that's on you. And you should, really feel ashamed of yourself. In other NFL news, heads are starting to roll now that the teams learn that the salary cap floor will be $180 million, which the cap floor just means that the salary cap can't go lower than that. But the cap's still likely going to go down. I mean, there's no way it doesn't go down. They agreed with it in the CBA to spread the hit of COVID out over a couple years, but it was just over, I think it was $195 million this year, or it was close to $200 million. So it's going to go down. So with that news, you saw the Packers today cut linebacker Christian Kirksey and tackle Rick Wagner. Clears just over $10 million in cap space. No surprises. Me personally, I thought they were two guys that were going to get cut. along with outside linebacker / edge rusher Preston Smith and defensive lineman Dean Lowry, I think are for sure to go. The Packers are currently over the cap. They need to get under. And there's a lot of Packers J.J. Watt talk. I think it's a pipe dream. I'd love it, but I can't imagine there's going to be a way they can get under the cap and still make that move. And then the Eagles have also trading Carson Wentz. They cut Deshaun Jackson today. Not a massive surprise. He's aging. He's injury prone. Yeah, he's still fast, but I think he's like 35-ish. With his cap, you can't have that on your roster. You're better off to cut him. Now, moving into the new segment with biggest needs, looking at AFC North. First off, we'll start with the team with the least amount of needs, and that's because they just made the AFC Championship game, and that's the Buffalo Bills. Right now, their biggest needs are pass rushers with inside D linemen, edge rushers, running back, and really most of their offensive line. Especially their tackles. Well, the right tackle situation isn't great. Darrell Williams has been... Deion Dawkins has been nice on the left side, but even in their interior O-line really could use some work. The Bills' issue with free agency this year, they only have 4... Right now, according to Sport Track, they're only projected just under $4 million in cap space going in this year. And there's going to be guys, they're going to need to work in a Josh Allen extension, some other things. But I think edge rusher, their offense, they have Brian Dable back. They couldn't run the ball, but I think part of that, Devin Singletary took a big step back, and they took a third-round shot on Zach Moss. But, running back's not a super valuable position, but you still need some talent there. But I think their D-line and O-line are their biggest needs. They have Ed Oliver, but he's about it on the interior, and even he hasn't developed as well as I personally hoped he would. At edge, they have Jerry Hughes. Jerry Hughes is pretty good, but he's getting old. Last year with their second-round pick, they did take a guy I really liked, which was A.J. Epinesa. He didn't play much last year, sat behind Trent Murphy. Maybe he takes a developmental step. But Jerry Hughes is getting into his 30s. You're going to need to replace him. You can never have enough pass rushers. I personally, with draft pick 30, it gets a little hard. But if he falls, I don't think there's a way they can't go with either Gregory Rousseau or... I think Gregory will be gone. But personally, if there's an interior D lineman I think they should take a shot on in the first round to sit opposite of Ed Oliver, I think they need to take a massive swing at Christian Barmore. He's the best D-line prospect in this draft. Interior D-linemen are such a hard thing to find. And they're so valuable, too. Like, you look at the Packers with Kenny Clark, Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward in Pittsburgh. Being able to clog up that middle and make sure your edge rushers can consistently get one-on-ones more than getting double-teamed is huge. So I think if Christian Barmore can fall to 30 to the Bills, I can't see a way they don't pull the trigger there. But as for running back, 3 out of the 4 teams I'm talking about can easily target Aaron Jones if the Packers don't re-sign him, and I don't think they will. They took A.J. Dillon in the second last year. Aaron Jones is going to want a lot of money. The Packers already offered him a contract that would make him a top 5 in dollars per year paid RB, but the guaranteed money, and it was backloaded, so he didn't want it. Understandable for him, but also understandable for a cap-stricken team like Green Bay, so they could get out of the contract without hurting themselves, because second contracts are always ugly. Talked about that last week, but Aaron Jones, maybe Zach Moss takes a second-year step, and you don't need to. But I think O-line is the real big push, which at 30... The good thing here is offensive tackle in this draft, it's actually pretty good. There's guys like, there's no chance, not a chance in hell they're going to touch Penny Swell, who's the best offensive tackle prospect in this class. But, there's guys, Wyatt Davis who might fall, unlikely, but very much could fall. Elijah Tucker. Even if they want to draft running back in the draft, you're going to have guys like Travis Etienne, Najee Harris. A lot of options. I even got later guys like Chuba Hubbard, who I'm a big fan of. He's Canadian, but even then, Trey Smith's another O-lineman they could take a look at. If they, Jalen Mayfield. There's some guys, and then if they're looking at edge rushers, like, I think Gregory Rousseau will be gone. I already said that, but, they could take a swing at Patrick Jones II, or take Samuel, or if they're looking for an offensive tackle, Samuel Cosme. So I think there's some options in the draft at 30. It'll depend on how the board falls, but I think there's a good chance that they can make a proper move. Now, looking to the next successful team, the Dolphins, who had a nice rise last year. Good news for them is they're basically set on defense. They could need some help at inside linebacker, but Jerome Baker's extremely talented, so if he takes that step, they're fine. And, their pass rushers are fine with guys like Kyle Van Noy. Their corners are set with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. That defense under Brian Flores is fine. What they need to do is grab some offensive linemen, wide receivers. You cannot have your best wide receiver be Devontae Parker. You just can't. You can't. He's good, but he's not like... And even then, you can't have... Like, they have nothing else outside of him. That's it. They have Devontae Parker, and then at O-line... O-line's something they need to address. I'm not one of the people who says they need a QB. Tua didn't have an amazing first year, and I don't think Tua's ever going to be what people were hyping him up to be, but I still think Tua's a guy who can get done what you need to get done. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers almost won a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. They, I think, will be fine with Tua. But, with the third overall pick, thanks to Houston's stupidity, there are some options they have. They're likely going to have the first wide receiver. They're 100% going to get the first wide receiver off the board. I don't think there's a way they don't. But the Jets draft I think if the Jets draft Zach Wilson or Justin Fields at 2, you have to take Penny Sewell. There's no way you can let an O-line prospect like that walk. Look at, the Jets sucked last year, but Mekhi Becton. Look at the tackles last year. Tristan Wirfs just won a Super Bowl. Most of the tackles outside of the dumbass, not the dumbass, but, actually, there's the dumbass the Titans drafted. Isaiah Wilson was a flop. And then, who did the goddamn Giants take? I don't remember, but awful. But, you have Mekhi Becton, Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills with the Browns. Offensive tackle is an extremely important position. So if you can get that, you're set. Really set. But if not, and the Jets take Penei Sewell, draft Jamar Chase. I know Devontae Smith just won the Heisman. I know he has the potential to be really good. But Jamar Chase opted out this year, and I think people are forgetting just how fucking good Jamar Chase is. Jamar Chase is more physically built than Devontae Smith. He was the wide receiver 1 on a team with guys like Kadarius Toney, who could be who's likely to be a first-round pick this year. I'm a big Devontae Smith fan, and I don't think they'd be wrong in taking Devontae Smith at 3, but I think they're overthinking this. Just take, if Penei Sewell's gone, draft for your value, take Jamar Chase. Please. And then they have $35 million in cap. This is an interesting division because it's the only one, I think it's one of the only ones, if not the only one, where no team's in an awful cap situation. The Bills aren't great, but they're not over the cap or anything. So with $35 million in cap, if there's a team I think that's going to pay Aaron Jones, it's the Dolphins or it's going to be the Jets. Because both those teams are in need of a running back. I know, I can't think of his name. They had a running back last year who wasn't bad for the Dolphins, but he still wasn't great, wasn't incredible. I'm blanking on his name. Last name starts with a T. I'm too lazy to look it up. He wasn't anything to write home about. But if there's a team I can see paying guys like Aaron Jones, Kenyon Drake, it's them. Or even they might go and spend on a wide receiver. Spend on a Kenny Golladay if he doesn't get franchise tagged. Spend on an Allen Robinson. Pay money for a wide receiver. I still think this class is really deep. And you could, if you have a chance to take a generational type talent in either Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase, you do it. But that team was 10-6 last year. They have 3 first-rounders this year. One's third because the Texans are dumb. Their other first-rounder... No, they only have... 2 first-rounders, not 3. They had 3 last year. They have 2 first-rounders this year, but they also have a second this year because the Texans are dumb. No, their second is in Arizona. It's been a week. My brain is in, mush mode. So, yeah, 3rd overall pick, basically. Penei Sewell, if the Jets don't take him, or Jamar Chase. Maybe Devontae Smith, but in my opinion, take Jamar Chase. Now, looking into the 3rd most successful team in this division, and a really interesting one, New England Patriots. Didn't look great last year. Had a lot of defensive free agents leave. Had a league-high 10 opt-outs. One thing they don't need to worry about is their offensive line, which is amazing. A good offensive line, but they need quarterback. Quarterback is a big need. Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end. Their offense is where they need to focus. Yeah, their defense, they're going to need to eventually... They're looking to shop Stephon Gilmore, but they have J.C. Jackson. Safeties are getting old, but, you've got years on some guys before you need to... But you can't win games with Jacoby Myers being your best wide receiver. Cut Julian Edelman, get him off the roster, get his contract off the roster. You already have $68 million in cap. So my recommendation to the Patriots is if the Cowboys are really dumb and can't figure out a way to pay Dak Prescott, throw all the money in the world at Dak. Throw it. Do it. Fucking do it. Pay Dak Prescott to be your quarterback. That, you can look in the draft because you pick at 15th. But at 15th, you're not going to get Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, obviously not Trevor Lawrence, maybe not Trey Lance. I can't see you getting Trey Lance. So you're going to have to hope Mac Jones can be that dude at 15. But honestly, your best bet personally is pay Dak if he's available. If not, take Mac Jones. You need a quarterback. Cam Newton was not it. Josh McDaniels cannot coordinate for a run quarterback. You need a pocket passer, which isn't good, but your O-line's set for it. But you also need wide receiver and tight end. That's okay. This wide receiver class is stupid deep. Plenty of guys you can get. You also have $68 million in cap. You can afford to pay some dudes. You can afford to pay guys. Obviously, you're not going to probably get your Allen Robinsons, who's already come out and said he wants a ring. But there are other guys you can probably pay to come play for you. Spend some money. Bill Belichick's still a good coach. Everybody needs to shut the fuck up about that. His last few drafts haven't been great. It's never always been Tom Brady. It's never always been Bill. But Bill Belichick is an 8-time Super Bowl champion who's never coached a bad defense. Their defense this year wasn't amazing, but it had a shitload of opt-outs. Bill Belichick has never coached a horrendous defense. That's one thing he knows how to do. Find defensive talent, use defensive talent. So give that team an offense, and I wouldn't be amazed if in 2 years they're back in the playoffs and everybody's going, fuck. But finally, the runt of the litter in this division, what I've always called the NFL's butt fumble, which references to Jets quarterback Mark Sanchez fumbling the ball off his offensive lineman's ass when he ran into it. Basically, you have a need at almost every position except for left tackle, one of your interior defensive linemen, and safety. You have Marcus May, Quinnen Williams, Mekhi Becton. You fucking blow everywhere else. Stop with this. Stop giving Sam Darnold chances. You have the 2nd overall pick. Take Zach Wilson or take Justin Fields. You can take Penei Sewell. I'm not saying don't, because if you can build 2 amazing tackles in Mekhi Becton and Penei Sewell, you cannot be mad. That'd be great. That'd be incredible. But You have the second overall pick. Sam Darnold's not it. He's not. He was a turnover machine at USC, and he's done nothing to change that. I know he had Adam Gase for a coach, but he still needs... If he's ever going to succeed, he needs to change the scenery. Don't listen to Colin Cowherd and all those talking fucking idiots tell you that Sam Darnold, they'll show you one of those few plays Sam Darnold makes a year where you're like, holy shit. Sam Darnold has not been good his entire career. Let's put that out. Again, he was a turnover machine at USC, and he's done nothing to change that. Sam Darnold has been utterly awful in a New York Jets uniform. He's hit over 60. This year he was under 60% completion. That's horrendous. Awful. So get rid of Sam Darnold. You have the second overall pick, and then you have another late first because the Seahawks trade for Jamal Adams. But you're fine at safety. Pay Marcus May. Keep developing Quinnen Williams. You have Mekhi Becton. Possibly look at moving Jamison Crowder and nail some wide receiver picks. Brashad Perryman's fast as fuck. You let Robbie Anderson walk when you should have traded him at the deadline last year. There is a way that the Jets can rebuild. They have a shitload of cap space. They have $75 million in projected cap space according to Sport Track. That's insane. They have the best coaching hire of the cycle in Robert Saleh. There's going to be some big-name defensive guys who are going to want to come play with Saleh. I would not be surprised at all. After what he did, you're going to be able to rebuild this if you do it right. Like, I'm expecting a Brian Flores-style rebuild of the Jets where it's not going to take as long. They have 2 firsts this year, 2 firsts next year. I can see the turnaround quicker than a lot of people. It's off the Jets. I can easily see them fucking this up. Oh, wouldn't it be so Jet-like to fuck this up? Please don't. If you're going to fuck it up, please trade Quinnen Williams to a place where he can actually do things, because you're really not helping the dude out. I'd love to see him succeed. I really, really would. And you're really not helping him out. The Jets are the team I expect to pay Aaron Jones because they do have a need at running back. LaMichael Pierre ain't it. Frank Gore, NFL legend. Hang up the cleats, dude. You're really old. You're not really productive anymore. You were great in your prime. Hang up the cleats. You're only hurting your legacy at this point. I could see them paying Aaron Jones. And this is coming from a guy who watched Aaron Jones. He's extremely efficient. Like, a lot of RB contracts don't work because of the workload they have. That's one thing Aaron Jones hasn't had. He's only had 2 years of, like, a real workload. And even then, he's average. Most of the time his average is over 5 a carry. So he doesn't have near the carries of most guys. He's an efficient guy. I could see the Jets throwing the guaranteed money at a guy like Aaron Jones, but I also couldn't because they were just burned by Le'Veon Bell. So maybe they don't, but maybe if the Jets take a guy like Travis Etienne late first, that's going to be a good one. Or Najee Harris and maybe in the second. Like, they have a lot of money, a really good coach. They just need QB, and that's why at 2, Penny Sewell's not bad, but you can't pass up the opportunity to get your QB of the future. I know they traded up a haul to get Sam Darnold at 3, and that didn't work out. They really, really need to nail this. Zach Wilson has surged as the QB2 now. I like it. I think Zach Wilson has a better arm than Justin Fields, and Justin Fields had a really big issue of consistently sticking to his first read, which that's going to happen when you in the college, but that's a big issue. You can't stare down receivers in the NFL. It's my biggest critique of Lamar Jackson. Really talented QB, gets way too much hate, but he's an issue of making reads in the pocket and staring down receivers. It's what happened with that pick 6 in the playoffs this year. He stared down Mike Andrews, and Taron Johnson read it and got a pick out of it. So you need to get a QB, and if Zach Wilson's going to be a developmental guy, I think the Jets can easily land him at 2 because there's no way Trevor Lawrence doesn't go at 1. If the Jags don't draft Trevor Lawrence at 1, holy fuck, I will howl. If the Jets find a way to get Trevor Lawrence at 2, I will piss myself. Absolutely piss myself. Zach Wilson's also a little more of a risk than Justin Fields. And you know what? I 100% agree. But I'm also, if you remember a few episodes back, I love the risks. You know, the Justin Herberts, the Josh Allens. That's my kind of QB. Draft Zach Wilson. That's my guy. Use that money to get defensive free agents. Build your offensive line. With that late second even, you can probably land a guy like Rashawn Slater or some other really talented offensive line prospects. The Jets are a lot more set than people make it out to be. This division is going to be really tight, I think. Not this year, but in like 2 years, because the Bills, you know, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. John Brown, I could see traded or cut because rookie Gabriel Davis put on a show this year. So I think that he'll be fine there. You know, the Dolphins look young and coming. The Patriots are, I'm never going to say a team's completely out of it with Bill. Hell, they won games this year. They beat the Ravens this year. They upset the Cardinals, upset the Ravens. They upset teams they weren't supposed to be in games with. With Cam Newton, who I think had less than 20 total touchdowns. Their offensive line has been built with young talent. The AFC North is set for the future. But anyways, that's everything for this week. Remember to check out the social medias at PassProPod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you could please like and subscribe if you're a YouTube listener, or rate the podcast and subscribe if you're on a podcast platform. It would mean a lot and help out the podcast. And thanks for listening this week.